Hola, mi gente. Our Vino y Bocaditos NYC event was so much fun, and we couldn't have done it without our sponsor, Uncorked and Cultured. It was an incredible afternoon. The energy, the wine, the cheese, and of course, the chisme. Our community really came together to celebrate Latiné owned wine brands, part of the vibrant BIPOC wine culture that Uncorked and Cultured worked tirelessly to amplify. As publishers of the Sip Consciously directory and producers of must attend events like the State of Black Wine Business Forum and Juneteenth Napa Experience, Uncorked and Cultured is doing such important work. We're so grateful to have had Uncorked and Cultured as a sponsor for our Vinos y Bocaditos NYC event. Their support was instrumental in making this such a special afternoon for our community. A big, heartfelt thank you to the entire team. We couldn't have done it without you.
It's a region with a rich history of wine growers. They first planted their vines in 1973. The Hargrave family out in Southwold ended up planting some of the first few vines there, and they've been farming ever since. So just over 50 years. Last year they celebrated 50 years. And I was just so intrigued by it. I reached out to the winemaker at the time, and I was like, so what's this about? Because when I saw the ad, it really felt like it was written exactly for me. Like when my wife and I made that decision to move on and look for a different life and a different lifestyle in Mexico, we had a very serious conversation about, what our, job situation was. She knows, and she knew at the time that this is what I love. I love growing wine grapes. I love making wine. And so it was a very, deep conversation about what's going to happen if we get down there and 2 months later you decide, hey, I actually really miss, the wine scene, making wine, growing wine grapes. And I was like, really, it's going to take the perfect place. It's going to have to check off all of these boxes, and it would have to be exactly what we're looking for, not only from the monetary side, but also on the philosophy. And this job felt like it did.
I need some.
I say job, but it's really a continuation of my career. Right? A Mexican-owned winery in a place where really 93% of the population is white. And I lived right outside of Portland, where 90% of the population is white. So it didn't feel like an extreme transition. It really felt like, okay, I've dealt with what it means to be a minority in a very high majority, white population area. And so this felt like just another smooth transition. On top of that, working for a company that believed in sustainability, in quality, and really wasn't afraid to take on a new region, right, with a history already, and try to develop something that was unique, right, incorporating our Mexican roots into what we're doing on Long Island, but also making a wine with a sense of place. Because, of course, I need some too. I'm plowing on somewhere.
I got you. I have a glass for you too.
Thank you so much. When the Rivera Gonzales family started RGMX, it was really about finding what the land said to them. Right? What does this region represent? Why does the wine from here taste the way it does? Right? And that's because of the soils, because of the climates, because of the people, the hands that have a hand in all the work, from the vineyard to the cellar to the consumer portion of it. And that's really what makes a wine have a sense of place. And that was always the philosophy. Sustainability, innovation, and then building wines that are of and from America. So at RGNY, we're still incorporating our Mexican roots in it when it comes to the decorations, the experiences, the food, the events, but we are looking to make wine that's of and from the North Fork of Long Island. Just a little bit about us, maybe a little bit more than a little bit, but I hope you guys really enjoy this. This is a tour.
Yes, I always have to smell it first. We didn't do a tasting with this one because I just wanted you to enjoy this in its purest form. So, but I always tell people, anytime you're doing a tasting, whether it's food or whether it's cheese or whatever, to taste it first, then eat whatever you're gonna have, and then take another taste, because it can completely change your experience, right? And we have some examples of what, hopefully, some good things of that. But Leo, thank you. Leo's gonna join us for the whole, because I know he didn't come for just that. Yeah, he's gonna join us. But if you guys have questions, please take this opportunity to ask the head winemaker right now. And they are having an event for Dia de los Muertos.
November 6th.
Which also happens to be my birthday.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions for Leo? Salud first. Salud.
Salud, everyone. Yeah, cheers.
I have two questions. What was the first grape grown and where was it from at the winery?
Okay.
And what grapes make up this?
Got it. So at RGNY, originally called meticulous, owned by the Entenmann family that make all the little cakes and the desserts. I'm sure some of you tried those. They planted that vineyard in 1996. And really they based their vision off of what everyone else was doing. When that region was first planted, they noticed that the climate and the soils are very similar to Bordeaux, France. And so they planted a lot of Bordeaux vines. Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, some Syrah, Malbec, Petit Verdot. That was sort of the base of what ended up being planted there. Later on, there was some white wine varietals incorporated. But yeah, I believe the first were three at one time, which was the Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Merlot. Those were the first. Now this one here is made from grapes that came a little bit later on, probably in the early 2000s they planted these blocks. And it is 50% Chardonnay and 50% Pinot Noir. So a very classic champagne blend with a traditional Méthode Champenois, right? Primary fermentation in stainless steel, whole cluster pressed fruit, hand harvested, certified sustainable, and then going through that secondary fermentation in bottle, disgorged. This one was 28 months later. Right now we're holding on to maybe about another pallet that we're going to disgorge in 48 months, just to sort of understand how that's going to change the complexity, the depth of flavor, and really what you end up tasting from this wine. Yeah, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, about 50-50. 49-51 if we're gonna get technical with it. But yeah, that's what it ended up being. And so you get savory from that Pinot Noir, the depth of flavor, the mouthfeel is there. And then that brightness from the Chardonnay, good acidity. But for me, what I find when I taste wines from the North Fork and from RGNY is that there's this core of salinity that just comes through when it comes to like our Sauvignon Blanc, any of our sparkling whites, our sparkling Riesling. It's just there, right? There's this minerality to it, but there's also just like a roundness, an umami that's not present in a lot of white wines. And this is what I see in this one. And as it ages, it deepens in the complexity that you get. So it's different. From the first time I tasted it, it's different. And it's getting better, in my opinion. I'm really excited to see what that 48-month disgorgement of it does. But yeah, so it's a good song. It's quite a while. Sure.
Any other questions about your trip?
So the one for this year, we made, this year was actually 100% Chardonnay. Just finished with its primary fermentation about 2 days ago. And so it goes into the tank so that it can be the stainless steel tank where it gets cooled down to about 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's where it's gonna live for about the next 3 months, maybe around January. We'll start to prep it to do its secondary fermentation in bottle. And then it'll be fermenting in bottle for another about 24 months before we switch. Yeah, now we're in the middle of harvest. A little bit past the middle. All of the white wine varietals have come in. Now we're into the red wine varietals, and it's been an amazing year. It's been quite an awesome growing season. It was rough. It was rough from about April through late August. I don't know if you guys remember that big rainstorm in August when we got flooding out here. That was a moment when I was just like, ready to cry, to be honest. Because all season it was wet. In April, at the end of April, we got deep freeze that affected our flower, our buds that had already burst froze, and they definitely so. Our white wine varietals out of the Chardonnay, we probably got about 5% of what a normal yield would be. Right? So big losses in all of the white wine varietals, but it just felt like it was compacted. Like the season was just rainy, like every week, not a lot of sun, disease pressure, fungus pressure, pathogen pressure. It was just a lot of work. It was just a lot of just being out there and getting the work done. You know, mowing, hedging, canopy control. Because that's all you can do. You just roll with the punches that Mother Nature gives you, and then you try to do your best to harvest some clean fruit. But there's a balance. There's always a balance in Mother Nature. And in the last month and a half, right after that big storm, that was the last big rain that we got. It started to dry. We got sunny. It got breezy. The nights got cool. That is just perfect wine. Grapes develop a lot of flavor, the sugars come up slowly and steadily, the acids hang on, which you need for balance. And so that's what we've had. That's what we've had this last month and a half. Today is beautiful. It looks like maybe Monday we might start getting a little bit of rain in the morning, but I'm not too worried about it. Again, when we're into this part of the season where the grapes are almost ripe, and just this little bit of extra sun is going to get them to just the ideal point. And this little bit of rain pressure isn't going to affect their growth at this point. So we're just excited to let it hang and let those flavors develop. If you do enjoy red wines, look for the 2024 vintage out of the unforgettable in general. I think it's going to be an absolute standout. Let me stop blabbing on. I'll let Jessica take over and then move on to the next one.
Yes, and wherever you want, you don't have to keep helping. I want you to enjoy yourself, but I appreciate it. So we actually have 2 wines from Monroy Wines, and the next one we're going to have is Sauvignon Blanc. Now let me say, this is my fault. I put some goat cheese in the freezer so I could get it here. It would be thawed just enough, hard enough so I could cut it, and I forgot it. So I don't have a cheese paired with this, but I did bring some Fuji apples and some prosciutto, so you can still enjoy that whenever you create your own little plate. But a little bit about Monroy. I actually met them at the LA Wine Fest in Long Beach, California, just this past June. And Adolfo and his father, and his parents, they're from Guatemala, and his father actually immigrated to the U.S. at 16 after joining, and then he became a U.S. citizen after joining the Army. How familiar is that to so many within our community? And going to Vietnam. He was later stationed in Europe and picked up a taste for wine. Many years later, he took a job with the Saudi Airlines, and they grew up as expats in Saudi Arabia, which is a strictly dry country. I'm sure many of you know that. And so Adolfo, the son, would actually make the most basic bootleg of wine. Because you gotta do what you gotta do when you're a wine lover, right? And they would have wine was simply a necessity in their family. And after 10 years, they returned to the U.S. Adolfo went on to graduate at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a degree in molecular biology because he had no idea winemaking was something you could study. Now, I don't know if it's here, but I know there's a lot of places in California that you're able to study winemaking. And he thought that you had to be born into a winemaking family that owned a vineyard. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I did not grow up in a wine. Did any of you guys grow up in a wine drinking family? Sam, myself, wine drinking was like the box wine, Franzia, that was in the garage, refrigerator, right? That was wine, or wine coolers. That was our thing. But I relate to that. You think it's bougie, you think it's this, you think it's that, right? But then a friend actually suggested that he apply to one of the wineries as they needed scientists for their labs. He ended up taking a job as a lab supervisor at Clos de Bois. Am I saying that right?
Well, it sounds like it. You are.
Let's just say I am. for less than half of the salary of the other offers. But from there, his career has consisted of being a key part of lauded winemaking teams at Isel Vineyard under both the Arajau family and Chateau Latour, Checkerboard Vineyards, and Diamond Mountain Palmyra, and currently as the associate winemaker at Benovia in the Russian River. Monroy Wines started in 2018, and they focus on making cooler climate-style Cabernet Sauvignon that emphasizes floral and savory notes. All fermentations are done via closed-head rolling macerations, which he coppers himself. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so that there are these things. They're like
Right person here.
rolling tanks, they call them. Actually, I was looking to use one of those this year, but I think it was something was going on with the motor, so we ended up not. But it's really you put some grapes in there, you seal it up, and it has a motor that turns it. So rather than doing like a traditional punch down where you have an open top fermenter and you push the grapes down into the water, into the wine, or you pump over where you pump the juice over the top and keep that cap moist. This is an enclosed space, and so it just turns, and that's how you get the extraction. You know, you pull out color, tannin, flavors by just rotating. Right, that maceration happens naturally. It has like sort of a corkscrew on the inside that helps empty it. That moves the grapes around, mixes them up, and that's how you continue that fermentation.
Corkscrew to make it, corkscrew to open it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he does a barrel fermentation. Besides nutrients and a dry pitch of yeast, they don't make any additions to the wine. So they don't have any blending or harvest ripe or more bombastic components, he says. They only use French oak, and they vary between 40 and 60% in new wood. So the Sauvignon Blanc, particularly, is made in the same vein as an Excel all musk clone, a touch of oak, and extended time on lees.
Sounds great. Let me walk around and follow what we're talking about. So extended time on lees just means that lees is sort of the stuff that settles to the bottom of the barrel and the fermentation as it's fermenting. So the sediment. And what the sediment does is that it can do a few different things depending on the type of wine or the type of grape that you're using to make it, right? If it's a clean sediment, when there's no compromise, the fruit isn't compromised at all, there's nothing funky going on, it adds depth. It adds that mouthfeel that you get, right? When you talk about a round wine. If there are some funky things in the fruit, you want to get it off of that lees so that it doesn't end up affecting the flavor or stalling the fermentation later on. So in this case, they use that lees to add depth, to add mouthfeel, to add a little bit of complexity.
So he's actually been mentioned as by wine enthusiasts as one of the Latinx experts changing the face of American wine, but also the wines that you're going to be getting, the Sauvignon Blanc and the Cabernet, they are not released yet. So you guys are getting an exclusive taste, but they are going to be released this month. But you guys are getting like some firsthand. See everybody who missed out, they really missed out. And like I said, normally I had purchased some goat cheese, some garlic and herb goat cheese to go with this. My bad. I literally went outside, like almost threw my phone and cried because I was like, I can't believe I did this. But like I said, if you decide, we do have some Fuji apples and some prosciutto that would have went fabulous with the goat cheese and the Sauvignon Blanc. And we do have a couple. He only sent us 3 bottles of each, so and we're in bottle 2, so make the most of it for sure. What do you guys think? What do you smell when you smell it?
Grapefruit.
You know what? I need to taste it. I haven't tasted this either. Because we literally just got it.
What's the vintage? This one?
2023. This is a 2023, and then when we get to the Cabernet, it's a 2021. Very dangerous. Very dangerous? Are you?
It's like,
So this comes out of Sonoma County, And this one is a 13.5 alcohol percentage, so it's pretty.
It's smooth.
Even more dangerous.
Yeah, it's really nice. We should select.
So Sauvignon Blanc, depending on the region, really represents itself in very different ways. New Zealand, South African Sauvignon Blanc, you get very grassy tones, a little eucalyptus. Some people would describe cat pee, which is a weird one. I never got that. I got the grassy, I got the eucalyptus.
What cat piece?
Maybe they're I'm not sure. There's a lot of weird wine descriptors, right? But I think at the end of the day, especially in the Latiné community, we taste and we understand things in a very different way. Right? Growing up, we have different foods, different cultures, different things that we like in general. So we're gonna smell and taste something in there that other people might not get. Right? When I have a Sauvignon Blanc, like when I think about California Sauvignon Blanc, it's something that I'm getting here. A little bit of maracuja, some passion fruit, a little bit of papamola, star fruit, tropical terms. But this is also very clean, very structured, bright acidity, but always this little base of tropical fruits. Grapefruit, not so much. Grapefruit, I do get a lot from the North Fork region. So out here in New York and Long Island, if you're gonna have some Sauvignon Blancs. But this one here, I think, is a little more tropical to me. Yeah.
Exactly, that's the exact same price. That's why it's smart.
Just so you guys know, the restroom is right behind this partition. I'm sure you guys have already figured that out. And many of these wines, we have extras, so if you want to buy some, you'll be able to. With the exception, with the Monroy Wines, he only gave us 3 bottles. Well, unless we have a bottle left, but we'll see.
Should we kill that one?
You want some more? Would you like some more? Yeah, we have one more bottle after this. Does anybody want any more Sauvignon Blanc? Yes, they do. Yes, we can. Si se puedes with the Sauvignon Blanc, right? Want some more Sauvignon Blanc? Leo's probably looking at me going, you're not pouring that right. You should be pouring it in the bottom. Does anybody else want some more Sauvignon Blanc? Alright. There's a little bit left in this one. We have one more bottle. Now just so you guys know, once we go through all of the wines, the next one, we do have cheese for the next one, which is going to be a Chardonnay. And I apologize, it's not as cold as it should be, but we're going to have, and Erica's going to get together a little thing of brie for everybody. But once we go through all of the wines, all of the pairings, you guys are more than, we'll refill your glasses with whatever wine you would like that we have left, right? And then you're able to just graze away, right, with whatever you would like on the table. We also have, which salad did we end up getting? We have a little Mediterranean salad as well. So we have some Fuji apples, some prosciutto, and I've had like 2 sips. And then we have just fruits and different cheeses and like jams and little things, you know. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting the knowledge and getting all of that. But like I said, the next one we're going to have is going to be Surcos Wines. And this is going to be a 2022 Chardonnay from the Rancho Escuela Los Carneros version area of Napa Valley. And I'm sure many of you have heard of the Bracero program, right?
No.
Bracero?
No.
So Bracero program is Bracero program is a program that actually brought a lot of particularly Mexican immigrants to agricultural areas to farm. And then it ended, I think I want to say 68, but I might be completely off on that number. And a lot of times people stayed. Oftentimes they would go back to Mexico, they would go back and forth. But it was something that we do particularly during like World War II to make sure that things kept going, right? To make
All
sure.
around the United States or just?
It mostly, it was around the United States, but mostly along, like, you had some in Texas, large amount in California. I mean, I would say probably the most amount in California is where that happened. But there was definitely other areas. But, so it was to really fill labor shortages. But one of the workers was Luis's grandfather, Enrique Gallegos Sr., from the small town of Arellano. With ambition and many talents, he sought out the Napa Valley to help with agriculture and establish roots in wine country. Enrique was a field worker for prominent Napa wineries such as Beringer and has earned respect from colleagues and the community. He started his family in Napa Valley and today celebrates his legacy with his children, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. His son and grandson both work in vineyards and cellars in addition to launching Surcos. So, if you were not aware, so often, these are all micro wineries, with the exception of RGNY. I wouldn't call you guys a micro winery. But all of these other wineries are micro wineries, and oftentimes they work full-time at another winery. And Leo, I'm sure you can attest to this from all of the stuff in Oregon, is oftentimes they have their day job, and then they go home and they start creating their own wines and they start doing their own thing, but they're still holding down their own job. So
it's like a small production, is that what it's micro?
Yeah.
Is it based on the field, or is it more so just the staffing,
Or the
whether it's
production,
micro
yeah.
versus?
It's the production. It's the production. The amount of cases they make, usually below 5,000 cases, depending on the region, is considered boutique. Some of these even less than 1,000 production. So it's quite unique to be able to taste some of these wines. But yeah, so to what Jessica was saying, the way that I've seen most of the Latino community get into this industry is with a second job. Always, right? Because there's always a saying in the wine industry: if you want to make a small fortune in the wine industry, you got to start with a large one. It's expensive, and of course there's the economic hurdles that you need to get over to be able to compete. But then in our community, there's also prejudice, right? Not necessarily as overt, but they're there. They're hidden, and it's almost worse. I would almost have them just say it to my face, then smile at my face and behind my back. Like, yeah, no, let's not call that back again. Let's not add that anymore. And those are the challenges that face some of these small wineries and small producers. But at the end of the day, they still get up. They go to their day job to be able to maintain and sustain a family or themselves, and then they work on their passion, right? They pour the rest of their energy into wine growing and winemaking, because it's become a part. All these producers really become a part of who they are. And so a lot of these people really just can't see them continuing their industry without that piece of it.
I have an interesting story to that point. I worked on a brand once, and it was the couple's second brand, because their first brand, which is named after the husband, they sold it so that they can then work on their passion project and the wines that they wanted to make. So this guy has this very famous brand with his name everywhere, has nothing to do with it anymore, but also sells his own brand. It's called Kim Crawford, if you ever see it.
Oh yeah.
But Kim Crawford, they currently own Lovelock. New Zealand, not Hispanic, but good family. But it's just so interesting to hear that and to see that this couple did it. And they made a lot of money selling the first one to do whatever they want with their second one, which is really nice.
And the awesome thing about micro wineries is often they can be a little bit more creative with their winemaking.
Experimenting.
Like when you're not selling like this mass production, when you're expecting the wine to be the same every single time, they don't have to have that same thing. They can be a little bit more creative. They can try different things. They can, and I don't know. You tell me if you feel the same way. I feel very much like I can tell the difference. There hasn't been, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc person because they're too grapefruit forward for me, and I hate grapefruit. I like smell it, and I have an aversion to it. But even if it's not a wine that was like at the top of my list, I still like it because there's something that you can taste in these small wineries. And then also when you know it's from your community and you're supporting your community, it's just like, it becomes almost ingrained in you. It's just this beautiful, beautiful thing that you're like sipping on. And one of the things that, I've talked about so often, and actually me and Leo talked about it recently as well, is so often, large production wineries, they are very traditional about their pairings, right? Steak, pasta, seafood, but Latino-owned wineries, they also include the flavors of like Caribbean flavors, Mexican flavors, South American flavors. So whether you're having like enchiladas or tostones or whatever, there's gonna be these wines catered to those flavors, which you wouldn't, because they know how important it is to our community. So, and Luis and his wife were actually on the Wine Chisme Podcast earlier this summer. So they actually really share their full story. I can only give you guys so much in this snapshot, but Luis has immersed himself in the winemaking, spent countless hours with winemakers and growers, and they started this brand in 2019. And that's when they made their first vintage at Surcos. So this is a 2022 Chardonnay. And we paired it with the Brie, and let me know what you guys think.
It's definitely a different taste.
Right? So you taste it? Yeah. And obviously everybody has their own palate, so there's going to be different things that you like or don't like. So I would love to hear what you guys think in regards to the wine before and after the Brie.
You take the wine and then do the cheese and then the wine.
Do you notice a difference in the flavor? Do you notice the difference? Good. You like it? Yay, nay, yay? Okay.
Yeah, sweeter.
It got sweeter?
I feel like this one is a little bit more sweeter than the other one. The other one I smell it. The cheese tastes very balanced.
Yes. That's why, because it's something that could, because most Chardonnays are pretty robust and everything, so it's a creamy cheese can all that to
Maybe
that.
it's just me, but when I taste it with the Brie, it's like a sharp kind of taste, but then without it, it's just kind of very smooth and dies down.
Without it or with?
Without it.
Okay.
The wine.
The wine dies down, just kind of like very soft.
But yeah, it's so interesting because she said she tasted more butter. It's so interesting because everybody has a different flavor. But that's why I say try it out. Because you know how many, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a place and you're eating and maybe your wine comes with your food, so you start eating and drink your wine and you're like, oh, this wine's horrible. But maybe had you not had something, maybe it was a beautiful wine. So that's how I always say, try the wine first, have somebody taste it, and then, taste it again.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Jessica said, wine is such a personal experience that whatever you taste, whether you like it or not, you're right.
Yeah.
That's your palate. You guys could be here with, your family, your friends for years. Maybe you like the same food, maybe you don't, but you're gonna find that when you have something, one of you might be like, no, it's all right, and the other one will be like, oh, this is awesome, what are you talking about? And you're both right, because again, we all grew up a little bit differently, we taste things a little bit differently, we enjoy different foods, or don't enjoy different foods, and so we're gonna find different flavors. And so if the breed isn't paired, it's gonna be something else,
Something better for the break.
A little bit?
Yeah, it's really good.
So this one to me is it's again not super oaky.
No.
There's a little bit of flavor there. There's a little bit of density when it comes to when people call it the buttery So I can sort of deduce that they might have left this one on these or did a little bit batonnage with the stir they used them as well to add a little bit of that flavor.
Yeah, it's a good one. Actually, I'm not a big Chardonnay fan, but I do notice when it's like a dual, like steel barrel and oak barrel aged, I can tolerate it. But if it's still barrel aged, I like it. Because it's still barrel aged, it becomes more citrusy. That's the Chardonnay. That's the Surcos 2022 Chardonnay. Oh, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a mix of both. I think from what he told me, it's a mix of both. It didn't say it in the notes because I wanted to refresh myself, but from what I remember when we talked earlier this summer, it was, I think he leaves it in, I think he starts it in oak and finishes it in steel.
And it tastes like neutral. So there's different stages of it. When you get a brand new barrel, I like to think about it as sort of like a tea bag. You put your new tea bag in your hot water, you extract all the flavor, most of the flavor. When you're done with that tea bag, you can still put it in something else and there'll be something there. It's not going to be the same as it's brand new. Same thing with the barrel, right? The first time you use it, you're going to extract the majority of those flavors. But there's second use barrels, third use barrels. Right around fourth or fifth use barrels is when they start to become neutral. Where they're at that point, they're just a vessel. They're still a vessel that incorporates micro-oxygenation because of the porous wood, maybe a little bit of depth as well, but not as much intensity as the brand new chose.
That's more? Don't be shy.
I was going to disagree.
It's okay.
It really changes with the temperature.
I love it. You're all excited. It's okay. It's that, everybody has their own experience, their own everything with it. So we have three whites, right? We're gonna start getting into the rest. And I think we're gonna start with the Gonzales Wine Company 2020 Malbec. And I saw excitement. Okay, well, most people, where do you associate Malbec from? Argentina. This is not from Argentina. This is from Oregon. Yes, this is from Oregon. And so Christine, so let me tell you actually what happened. So last year I did a podcast tour. We're in New York, and Christina Gonzales of Gonzales Wine Company was like, yes, I absolutely want to share my wine with the people of New York. I had a heart attack because FedEx didn't deliver it until the Monday after my event.
Oh no.
I don't even know how many man hours I spent calling and talking to them and all of the things. But we just kept it. And we're like, we're going to do another event in New York. So now you guys get to try it. And actually, this is not even on her site anymore. This is gone. I think she sold out of this wine. So let me share a little bit about Christina's journey, because this is the first red of the afternoon, and like I said, it's a Malbec from Gonzales. And Christina is the granddaughter of migrant farm workers who moved to Wisconsin, of all places, right? I said, farm workers were everywhere. Moved to Wisconsin to pick cherries in search of a better life. She gained experience as a winemaker by jumping in head first and learning as she went, even working the forklift. While backpacking in Argentina, she stopped in Mendoza for dinner. And she, as much as she loved the state, she fell in love with Malbec. That's what grabbed her attention. That glass of Malbec stayed with Christina even after she returned home. Soon, it called her away to work harvest. So she's literally worked harvest around the globe. From Australia to California, I think it's New Zealand, Tasmania, I think it was She worked at the site of winemakers, creating all manners of styles of wine, but she also bonded with the vineyard stewards who were raising and processing the grapes. Their expertise inspired her, and the shared language bonded them. In 2010, after almost 10 years of that first glass of Malbec that she had, Gonzales Wine Company was born, and she began making wines that she herself loves to drink. So she has whites like Riesling and Gewürztraminer, and bold reds like Syrah and Petit Verdot. And this is her signature wine, is a Malbec. So obviously that's what we're having today. But like I said, Leo actually I know Christina, we talked on the phone, but Leo really knows her more than I do. So he said he would share a little bit more about Christina for us.
Well, she's just an amazing person. Oh yeah, sorry, cheese.
Okay. Just have an open mind with me, okay? We're gonna do blue cheese.
Whoa, really?
Yes. We're gonna give you just a little bit.
Okay.
Because Malbecs tend to be, I mean, I know hers is a little soft, but they tend to be a little bit fighting and bolder, so it's
Right.
gonna hold up to a blue cheese.
So I got,
I trust you.
We're gonna try it.
how do certain grapes, like for example, I think Malbec, like Argentina, I think Mendoza, and because it just certain soils, certain things, I'm like, how can Oregon grow these kind of grapes to be able to make a Malbec?
Great question. No, that's an awesome question. Because you think about Oregon, you think about a cool wine growing region. It's wet. It's not humid, which helps.
Right.
But it's also not as intensely warm as certain regions of Mendoza, where Malbecs actually do quite amazing. This wine, even though Christina Gonzales' winery is in the northern Willamette Valley, she sources these grapes from the Columbia Valley, about 150 miles away from the northern Willamette Valley, but a completely different region. The Columbia Valley is warm. It's hot. It straddles Washington, eastern Washington, and eastern Oregon, right? And so this area was originally very big with other agriculture, potatoes, onions, things that need a lot more heat. And when they started planting some wine grapes out there, they realized that some of the bigger varieties, Malbec, Cab Francs, Cab Sauv, do amazing out there because of that temperature, because of that climate. And this is really what I think brings the base of this wine out, right? You start in a region that reflects really well what a hefty, bold red wine can be. And then I think Christina's style is just really taking that and sort of being a little more gentle with it. Low intervention. She's not looking to do a whole lot of extraction. She's really just trying to reflect what those wine grapes okay? And, 2020 specifically.
I can't wait to hear Okay, now let me just tell you. Normally I work with a cheesemonger to pair all of these, right? Like I say, this is what I'm having, or this is what I'm doing, and I please pick the best cheeses. Because she ended up having to, something happened. I had to Google was my best friend. So I was like, now when it comes to food, I'm better than pairing with cheeses, because I'm a cheeseaholic anyway, so I'm like, I love cheese. So I'm super interested to see what you guys think of this.
So we eat the blue cheese and then
Did you already taste the wine? Taste the wine first, then the blue cheese, and then taste the wine again. You like it? You like it?
You know, all these wines are very delicious.
okay, that's delicious by itself. It's super soft.
It's a feeling.
Like, you guys are awesome. I was just saying, this is all I know, I'm wanting to hear because blue cheese is also one of those things that makes you love it.
That is weird.
Wait. Yeah, Ellie is not a blue cheese fan, so the fact that she even took blue cheese on her plate, I'm so shocked.
Now I have a non-related question to that.
Okay.
The name of that podcast is because wine and cheese met, or
It's both.
Okay.
Okay, so let me tell. I'll share a little bit about the podcast journey, right?
Because we get cheese.
Yeah. So when I started the podcast, I had actually started as a vlog on YouTube with a friend, and it was called Not Quite Midlife. right? Not quite midlife. But what that was supposed, like I was gonna be like a YouTube thing with my friend, but I found that, you know, doing something with the same person all the time was coordinating schedules.
Yeah.
Like it's coordinating schedules and this and that and agreeing on topics. So we did like 3 episodes and that was it. I completely scrapped it. Erased it, yeah. Then I had a friend who's like, you should do a podcast. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do a podcast. And it was, you know, to do the audio because I also found that people get shy in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But when it's a podcast, they spill all the chisme. Right? But no, so I was like, yeah. Well, it wasn't even started out calling the wine and chisme.
Okay.
I'm spilling the chisme to you guys. So initially it was called Entre los Labios. Because love comes between here and here. Right? True chisme. And then I was like, you know what? And I was at a convention with a bunch of people and they were asking what I was doing for my birthday and I was like, oh, you guys can come over, we're having wine and cheese. Meh. Like that's how I said it. And one of the girls, I don't know if you guys know the brand, Hija de tu Madre. So I was out with Patty, like, and she was like, bitch, you better change your Instagram name to Wine and Chisme right now or I'm gonna steal it from you. And I was like, and I had actually been thinking about changing my Instagram name, and I was like, you're right. So I changed it. There was already a Wine and Chisme, but they hadn't posted in like years. So I was like, that's fine. You can be Wine and Chisme. I'll be the Wine and Chisme. And then when as I was progressing, like doing more stuff towards the podcast, that just, I was like, Entre los Labios, like, no, it needs to be the Wine and Chisme. It needs to be the wine and cheese. Yeah, you missed it.
I did.
And that just felt the most natural. Wine and cheese because I mean, look at we're chismeando right now. We let it chismosa. You know, and I love, you know, I've always loved wine, but I was never somebody who knew a lot about wine. I just knew if I liked it or I didn't. So then when I started the podcast, people started asking me for wine recommendations. Because I would just go to Trader Joe's and be like, what looks good? Okay, let me try this. And my thing was always like, I will always be honest if I like it or not, but I will never bash another wine because we all have different tastes. So I will say it's not my flavor profile, but if you like grapefruit, you're gonna love this. I just don't happen to like grapefruit. So I wanted to make a very conscious decision about that. And then after doing it for about 6 months, maybe less than 6 months, I was like, maybe like 3-4 months, I was like, there has to be Latino wineries. There has to be. I know. I come from a family who worked the vineyard, not great vineyards, but who worked like citrus trees and everything like that. So I was like, there has to be. And I found MAGA, which is the Mexican American Vintners Association. So I reached out on Instagram saying, hey, like, I would love to work with you guys. And I started the podcast like a month before pandemic. So this is before everybody's grandmother's, nieces, monkeys, tick had a podcast, right? And they finally got back to me and they're like, we would love, like, come. And so I took a road trip. I drove up to Napa and met with the president of MAVA, and they're the ones who like wined and dined me. I'm like, I want to do this, and they're like, nobody's ever asked us. No, and because I kept looking, I kept finding the same like 10 to 20 wineries, and I was like, there has to be more. And they're like, nobody has ever proactively asked us like what they can do to help us. It's always during Hispanic Heritage Month, right? It's always during those times. And I was like, no, I want to, like, I feel so connected just for my family history, but also just being a Latina who wants to support others, not just other Latinas and Latinos, but other people across communities of color. That was so important to me.
So we have a friend, his name's Luis. He's a sommelier down in New Orleans, and originally from Brooklyn, but every Monday he has a group of sommeliers who are BIPOC who do like this tasting on Mondays where they bring bottles, wrap it up in tin foil, aluminum foil, and they literally go about trying to guess like what is the bottle that they're trying. And there are so many different communities of minority sommeliers and whatnot who try to find community, build community of kind of like this. But it's just interesting how, because there's tiny, if there was an effort to try to connect everyone, or not everyone, but at least people together, it's like, wow, there's actually, you'd be surprised if you were able to consolidate and put it all together. It's like how big a community actually can be.
Yeah.
But it's just the outreach and how is that people connect. Like, for example, we'll definitely like, hey, Luis, you gotta meet the person. Yes, gotta like, awesome. He actually has a podcast, listen to it and such, and you know, going from East Coast to East down to New Orleans, and then I can imagine just like all the different tangents you can go with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I when I started asking my friends, like, do you guys know that there's Latiné wine brands based in the U.S.? 9 out of 10, and I probably asked like 20, so small sample size, but enough within the community where I was like, this has to be done. They were like, I had no idea. And that's when I was like, there's no directory? All right, if there's not one, then I'll build one. And so I built the very first directory of Latiné wine brands based in the U.S. And we continue to add to it because there's some that are very small and maybe don't necessarily have like, or they have a website, but they don't have great SEO, or they don't have this, or they don't. So people are constantly sharing with me of what, oh, have you seen this one? Have you heard of this one? Have you done this one? And so it's a living, breathing directory that we constantly are adding to. So, and when anytime somebody says, oftentimes I hear people say they found my podcast from the directory. Because they were looking for a directory, they were looking for Latino wine brands, they found the directory, and then they realized, oh, you have a podcast. So it's so amazing, and I love it. And when I found RGNY, I was like, duh. So anytime we do something in New York, I'm like, you guys, I have to have you here. I can't not have you represented, right? So what did you guys think with the difference with the blue cheese? Did you like it?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah? That makes me so excited. Yes, okay. So our next wine is so you would think we're going to end with a cab, but we're not, because the Pinot Noir, I think, is actually heavier than the cab. So we're going to do a traditional California cab, and with that we have some aged cheddar, okay, where it's a 3-year aged cheddar, okay, and the aged cheddar is the back one. Yeah. And this one is coming from Monroy Wines. And this one is going to be what is it? 14%. So it's a good sucker.
Where is this one at?
This one is the same, it's out of Napa, Sonoma. And
I had an Oregon question.
Oregon
Yes.
question.
I
What
picked up.
is
See that?
Latin American cultural community
which
in
one do
Oregon?
you want me to
put?
What's being a Latino in Oregon?
Wow. Well, so I grew up about 30-40 minutes. Yes, there are actually.
Are there any? I was like, I got one question. I need to have so many questions.
Just like when anywhere I think around the U.S. where there is a large agricultural economy, you're going to find a lot of Latinos, right? Because we do the majority of the world. I mean, people think about it always as unskilled labor. That's farthest from the issue. There's so much skill that it takes to grow the vegetables and fruits, the things you
Thank
eat.
you.
And so the Willamette Valley is one of those areas that's very rich in agriculture. And so you do find quite a large Latino community out there. The majority are Mexican or Mexican descendants. We do find some Guatemalan descendants, a few other Central American communities.
Getting ready for the
Not a lot
Padres game. Go Padres.
or other South American Latinos, but yeah, a big Mexican population. So I mean, awesome Mexican food, delicious Mexican food.
I'm dying to go. It's very outdoorsy too.
Yes, the Pacific Northwest, is beautiful and green year round. Portland is a great food city. I love the area. I really enjoy being out here.
I know that's our last.
Every once in a while when it gets a little drizzly and cloudy. Like, what is this?
Because it's us and more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Long Island. I'm on almost to the end of the island. 2.5 hours depending on traffic. Southport is a little town where I live in. It's on the North Fork. Yeah, I'm 15 minutes from New Orleans.
Oh, that was such a name.
You been there? Oh, that's awesome. Good to hear. Visit us again. But yeah, I mean, again, that was one of the things that when the research came up on. What is this area? It's Riverhead.
So, you never made it to Puerto Escondido, or you did?
No, we were 3 hours. We'll go ahead and finish the tasting, but it's
Puerto Escondido is so beautiful. I mean, I never been. I want to go.
So this one we did the aged cheddar. What do you guys think with the aged cheddar? This is a 3-year aged cheddar.
No, wait, first try.
Yeah.
Which one is this one?
This is the Monroy 2021. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, and like I said, okay, so just so you guys know, and Leo, I don't know, you close your ears. Any extra bottles we have, we can go ahead and decide. I'm like, Leo, no, it's. So what do you guys think with the cheddar?
I like it. It's a great pair.
See, Google can be your and oh wait, here's the thing also. I really wanted to make sure that all of these pairings were very easy. So all of the cheeses we got at RJ's. Or BJ's. We got all the we got the prosciutto at Trader Joe's, at TJ's, at Trader Joe's. So I wanted to make sure because it's not something complicated, right? Because as much as I love my cheesemongers and everything, sometimes they get the most amazing things and they get it at this small little shop and it's super expensive, but it's so delicious. So I really wanted to make sure that what we were bringing you guys is something you is very accessible. So I just wanted to make sure I said that. BJ's, not RJ's.
Well, then, to that point, these wines, especially in the Latino community, we need to understand that our food is amazing with all kinds of wines, right? Like, that sparkling white, I'll have it with some ceviche, right? Maybe just having a lot of some tostones, the malva, like a fried quesadilla, with maybe some squash blossom in there. I guess exactly.
So just
Resource that does that?
so I actually, well, not all of them. I did create. I have created a wine and tamal guide
Wow.
and a wine and pozole guide.
So,
So,
soda season.
huh? Yeah, I'm Mexican. Yeah, I'm Mexican. So, wait, I had my friends for the first time play loteria last night. She's like, I have legal tokens, and I said, but we do it with beans. And so,
to your point though, I think that would be perfect in the sense of, because la cultura del vino por nosotros, it's not, depending on what region.
yeah.
But if we knew what kind of foods pair well with wines, I think we would definitely introduce it. Like, for example, in the Caribbean, wine's not really our thing.
Yeah.
But if you told us, like, hey,
Our
Wait, just so you know, I have 2 Puerto Rican wines, 2 wineries in Puerto Rico. I'm the director.
I think that's
That's
to our
Yeah.
to our ignorance / awakening.
Yeah.
There's a way in which we can our food that our comfort foods.
So, you know what, that's a great, okay, you just gave me an idea. Because right now I've been featuring like a wine of the week on my newsletter, but now I can do a pairing of the week. One of these wines with maybe some Caribbean food, some Mexican food, some stuff like, with different options. So, you just gave me an idea that we're gonna.
Peanut noir and oxtail, that's a thing.
Wait, I didn't hear it. Ooh.
Now we go good.
That sounds good. Yes.
I love Pinot Noir. That's
No, that.
Okay. So, and just so you guys know when you're ready, when you make your thing, you can have, I put some like hot and spicy jam, like hot and sweet jam over there as well with it. So this is, we have one more wine. So this is the prosciutto, which will go with a lot of stuff. The brie for the Chardonnay and the prosciutto for Chardonnay. The Malbec. This is for the cab, and then this last one is Gruyere with some sopressa meat, and that's going to be with the Pinotage. So, who has ever heard of Pinotage? It's normally a South African wine. Did you? Oh my gosh. Okay, so a Pinotage is normally dark, ripe fruit flavors, blackberry, cherry, fig. It has a little bit of a jammy flavor and it can have an earthy, smoky finish. This is actually from Mountain Winery in Temecula, California, which is in Southern California. I'm from San Diego. I live in San Diego, and it's about an hour and a half for me because I live in downtown. Because I'm bougie like that. And RGNY actually, it just became a Latino home winery about a little over a year ago. Johnny Leon actually purchased it, and he has an amazing story. He's been on the podcast as well. I actually went to his winery, so you can find the episode on audio, but also on YouTube. If you want to like actually see who he is and see what he is. He has a very interesting history, but you know, I love how he constantly, you know, anytime you talk to him, he constantly goes back to his roots and constantly acknowledges his parents and how much of an influence they had on him and how much they believed in him and how what he's doing is not only for his parents but for future generations of not only his you know, kids, possible kids or whatever, but for other Latinos. So he has, honestly, I didn't even write a lot of stuff down because there's some things that's just very hard to write down, and I think it's for all of these brands, right? It's very hard to sometimes capture those feelings and evoke those feelings through words when those people are not there. Like if Leo was not here, hearing what he has to say versus me saying it is very different, right? Like the emotion that he brings to it. And I would say that for all of these different wines and these different brands. But Pinotage, like I said, is normally a South African wine, but Temecula is it's a very inland, it's a very hot region. And we've been getting crazy weather in California too. It's been getting hotter and hotter and
You know,
hotter.
tacos also one of those grapes that they use in blend a lot, right?
Yes, they use it as a,
They use it a lot of blend.
so, I know it's really different. It's like a blend of Pinot Noir and, do you remember the other grape that's part of that, Leo? Pinot Noir? Sino, yeah, Sino. So it's a blend. So this one we have a Gruyere. We got the Gruyere cheese. It's in soap.
Oh, I didn't get it for you.
Yeah, it's a Gruyere. BJ's.
I'm curious if they brought the grapes in there to make it happen.
Okay, so I do want to share something with you guys because Monica actually had to leave a little bit early, so we're not going to do our live podcast. But I feel like you guys are all about the wine and cheese anyways, and so once you guys are done, yeah, you're all about the wine and the chisme. So feel free once you guys are done, and like if there's other blends you want or other wines you want, let us know. We'll come for it for you. And feel free to just hit the tape, go crazy. Go crazy. I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming. It means a lot. It really means a lot to me. It's been last year we had with the podcast tour we did have the wines, but we were really focused on the panelists. Jessica was there. But this year I really wanted to focus on the wines.
Okay.
And so it's actually a lot smaller crowd, but I appreciate all of you so unbelievably much. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to come out here to not only support these amazing Latiné wine brands, but supporting the Wine Chisme Podcast.
Hola mi gente, thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine Chisme Podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos!